Hey, one more thing before you go. Welcome to this show. This is going to be a Thanksgiving and a gratitude program. My wife and I, Diane, as you know, is my co-host on the Over the Teacup episodes, and I are going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving, a little bit about some of our history, a little bit about history, as well as the importance of gratitude in everything that we have within our lives now. Because I think, especially in this time and day, this year, this past year and a half, almost 2 years actually, we should be very grateful for what we've got and where we are. So, this is our Thanksgiving show. Welcome to the show. Hey, Diane.
Hey, Michael.
Um, Thanks for doing this with me the day before Thanksgiving. Normally, we have a regular show on Wednesdays, but obviously, we felt it important enough that we talked to you about a little bit of Thanksgiving, a little bit about gratitude, that we all have something to be grateful for, and
Mhm.
understanding that Thanksgiving is a time to be grateful, right?
Yes. Uh, Typically, that's when everybody thinks about it, but I think we're going to talk about that it's not just for this time of year.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously Thanksgiving. I mean, it's been well, how long has it been? Over almost close to 500 years, I guess, has been practiced.
Mhm.
If you narrow that down to what normal history has presented itself, I think it's been around about 400 years, but you can add about 80 years onto that through some exploration of the History Channel. I found that uh, the first Thanksgiving on American soil actually took place at a different time than we really kind of remember it as.
Mhm.
And it literally was for giving thanks for being here and for surviving some things and you know stuff like that.
Well, they had a lot to survive. It
Yeah.
was a little rough.
Yeah, just a little rough from there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody remembers, or at least you're taught, and even the plays that were the kids in Thanksgiving plays. I think they were in Thanksgiving
I
plays.
think so. I I'm a horrible
Are we
mother.
getting to
I
that age?
remember, well, yes, but
Are we?
I remember my Thanksgiving play more than I remember them being in one.
Yeah, it's kind of one of
So,
those. I mean, they had a lot of dance recitals. They had a lot of plays. They had a lot of
yes, they were in a lot of stuff.
Christmas
Yes.
dances, Christmas plays, things like that. But I don't think I quite remember a
I don't.
Thanksgiving parade or
Mm-mm.
play, not a parade.
No,
Or
but
maybe they, but you were.
I was in second grade, and I was the lead pilgrim girl.
Well, you see, you were a lead at a very
I
early
was a
age.
lead. Yes, that's what they called me, lead pilgrim girl.
Well,
And I
this
had a little bonnet and everything.
I actually
Yeah.
don't remember. I mean, I'm an old guy now, so I can kind of think back. Um, I may have been in a Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving
play.
play. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think I was just a pilgrim. Yeah, because I remember my father and my mother helping me make it was a paper hat,
Mm-hmm.
to make it look like we had to paste it
Yep.
together with the paste the icky paste.
And making the paper turkeys like we used to
Yeah,
do, and yeah.
yeah. Well, most of us remember those kind of memories, but yes,
Mm-hmm.
the Plymouth Rock Thanksgiving is what traditionally we all look back to, which would happen in like 1621 when the Pilgrims landed in the, let's see if I can pronounce this correctly, Wampanoag Indians, Native Americans.
We probably should
Um,
have checked that.
well, yeah, I did, but whether or not I remembered it's another question.
Right.
But they gathered at Plymouth for an autumn harvest celebration, and they kind of designate that as the first Thanksgiving here in the United States. And it was for thanks. It was for being grateful for the food because it was very difficult to survive when they first arrived here, as we've
Mm-hmm.
heard from history. And so the meeting of the Native Americans, and the aspect of having a meal together, kind of was a celebration, and it was for being grateful, for thanking for what they had.
Yeah. I think they had the Native Americans had taught them how to grow crops and things like that. And you know,
But it wasn't
I
quite a
don't
vegan one or vegetarian uh, Thanksgiving. I think
know.
the Native Americans did bring like 4 or 5 deer with them, and they kind of roasted the deer, and they so they had meat, but they also had a lot of vegetables that they had learned to kind of make and so
Hmm.
forth. So, Diane, did you know that in 1541, Spanish explorers held a feast here on American soil for the first time, technically, um, here on American soil? A Spanish explorer by the name of Francisco Vasquez de Coronado. He came up here with about 1,500 men. They were looking for gold. And
Hmm.
when they got here, when they came north, they had come from Mexico City, and they landed somewhere in Texas, what is now Texas,
Hmm.
and they had reached their goals, so they stopped to have a feast of Thanksgiving for surviving, traveling from Mexico City up through Texas. And at that time, they basically had uh, the meal with some Native Americans that were here. So theoretically, that would be the first Thanksgiving on American soil, which is like
Right.
79 years sooner than what Plymouth Rock kind of brought about. So yeah, it. I thought that was kind of interesting. By the way, they had literally done that 79 years prior to the Plymouth Rock landing, and theoretically, it was in Palo Duro Canyon, which I'm not exactly sure where that is, but according to the History Channel, that's where it was, and that would be American soil. So I thought that was kind of cool. Then they had another surprising thing that I was looking at through history, which again is not in the history books that they're teaching within school, or at least what I've learned, and probably not what you learned either. In August of 1607, colonist, try that in English, colonists and Native Americans feasted in Maine. There were competing claims as to what the first, Thanksgiving feast was, whether or not it be these individuals or whether or not it be the Plymouth Rock ones.
Hmm.
But they literally had a feast of Thanksgiving for um, surviving. I guess back then, I guess you had to thank everybody or whoever was, God, the universe, whoever was up there, that you did survive. You know,
Yeah.
the way it
It
was.
was that was quite a trip, and actually, probably a little more of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? More treacherous of a trip, maybe, than what De Coronado did from Mexico City up to Texas. Like that doesn't seem. I'm sure it was awful, but it doesn't seem as treacherous as coming across from England and all that to
Well, I
me.
mean, it is back then. They didn't have the cruise ships, the
Right.
Princess
So
Cruise Lines or the Love Boat to come
it
across. So
seems like it would have been a little more treacherous.
yeah, you would think so.
Hmm.
Either way, they were very thankful and so forth.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that they did. Um, Do you know when they were? Do you know when the mother, the mother of Thanksgiving being called a national holiday? Did you know that it was a woman that actually appealed to Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, to make it a
Oh,
national holiday? Sarah, here I've got it
Sarah
right here.
Hale.
Sarah Josepha Hale. She lobbied for a national holiday,
Mm-hmm.
who championed it as a national holiday in
Mm-hmm.
1827, and she was the editor of Godey's Lady's Book, which I'm not sure what that is. I could have followed up with that, but I didn't think about it. But she did it for 17 years. She wrote letters to um, Congress and to finally Abraham Lincoln in order to get this passed as a national holiday.
Wow. Maybe she was related to a pilgrims and
Yeah.
thought they needed to be immortalized somehow.
Well, I think that because it's an opportunity to take, again, for us to pause and take a moment to say thank you for everything we've got, where we're at, and who we
Hmm.
have in our lives, and so forth. In October 3rd of 1863, Lincoln proclaimed Thanksgiving as a holiday, which that's the month I was born. So I'm grateful he did it in October. I can add that to my grateful list, right?
Sure, why not? And that's the what I wanted to talk about is that, it shouldn't be just, Thanksgiving that we're all grateful or that we practice being grateful and that we say thank you to those around us. That should be an everyday thing. And I don't think people realize that, granted, this is a practice that isn't the easiest thing to remember to do, but and I'm certainly not perfect at it, but I do feel over the last 18 months or 2 years maybe that I've gotten better about being more conscious about being grateful for the little things and and sometimes very little things like um, having two green lights in a row on the way to work. Like,
I
thank you. You know,
I think that yeah, I agree with that because for me, as you know, it's extremely frustrating even for something like that because it's like red light, green light, red light, green light, red light, green light.
hmm
So yeah, it gives us something positive to be grateful for.
hmm
Plus, it in when you take the opportunity to be grateful for what you have in your life,
hmm
it allows you to appreciate, like you said, the little things. It gives us pause to say that the big things that sometimes we make stuff out to be
right,
um, really isn't as big as we made it out to be,
right,
if
yeah.
that makes
Well,
sense.
and you know, if you're in a pretty, you know, sour mood and it's lasting a while, it's actually kind of a great way to get out of that, or at least dig yourself a little more out of it, is to just be grateful for every little thing that you can think of. And some of it seems even silly, but once you can settle on something that you're thankful for, and then you can find something even bigger maybe, and then your mind starts opening up, going, oh wait, well there's that too, and oh wait, there's that. And you really can, if you're conscious of it and you really make an effort, you can pull yourself out of a depression at times. I mean, I'm not saying that depression doesn't exist and it's not a medical condition. I have it, so I understand. But there are times where maybe it's not as bad as being in bed for 5 days, that I can go and really think about, my family, obviously my family and my friends and all of that, but um, just the things you don't even really focus on that
Well,
often.
I think people take for granted sometimes of the things that they've got in their life that they just kind of take for granted, whether it be a husband, a
Hmm.
wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, your kids, your grandkids,
Hmm.
your grandparents, your parents. You take
Hmm.
it you kind of take for granted that they're always going to be there, or you take for
Right.
granted that it goes back to the one more thing before you go, that life can change in an instant. And
And people have sure seen that the last couple of years.
absolutely, so we should be grateful for the strides that we make and the fact that life can be good, and
Yeah.
that again, some things we we feel that they're bigger than they really are.
Yeah.
You know, take a breath, meditate a little bit, think about it, because sometimes, and I can tell you this from being a traffic investigator, I've told you this numerous times too, on the job, is that if you get delayed and you don't leave the house on time, sometimes that's a good thing,
Right.
because you would have just missed an accident. So you could be grateful for being late because you missed being in an accident, because unfortunately somebody else was in an accident, but that could have been you.
And that happens to me just about daily driving into downtown Phoenix.
Well,
I see an accident almost every day, and it has either just happened, and if I just left the house a little bit earlier, I could have very well been involved in it.
exactly. So
So,
little things, even like that, I think are important. Take the time to be grateful for the food you have on your table, even if it's just a little bit of food.
ah,
Be grateful for the way that your car is still running. Be grateful for the blue
hmm,
sky. Be grateful for the plants that are growing and the trees that are growing in your yard. Be grateful for your neighbors, for that they're not annoying neighbors, or
right.
or if they're a little annoying, be grateful that
It's not
somebody's
worse.
is not worse. Exactly.
Or if you live where we live, be grateful that it's finally, finally cooling off somewhat. We're still a little bit above normal, but man, I'm grateful for that every day.
Well, and I did. There are scientific studies that kind of prove that if you take the time to be grateful, and it can calm you, it can make you happier, it can
Hmm.
make you feel better about yourself, it can make you feel better about those around you,
Hmm.
and make life a little more interesting. Because when you stop and think about what I have, we have a roof over our head, we have food in our stomach, we have gas in the car, we're talking on this computer device. I sound
Hmm.
like Danny now. Computer device are really old. I'm grateful that I'm not that old that I can't recognize this isn't a computer device. But you know what I mean? You were talking through this medium
Hmm.
that we didn't have years and years and years ago. That we can have
No.
conversations with people all over the world,
Yeah.
face to face, basically. And I'm grateful for that. Even if we want to talk to
Hmm.
your parents, although Danny doesn't like to be on camera,
No. He doesn't
realistic.
even like his picture taken.
Well, exactly. But realistically, we've done it before where it's like, hey, we think we need to see you face to face. Then,
Hmm.
it gives us an opportunity to and be grateful for the fact that we have that availability, I think.
And now they can FaceTime like nobody's business. They don't
Well,
like to, but they do.
but they do, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's, when you are grateful, it also gives you a better sense of well being and it allows you to pay it forward. Because I think being grateful for what you have gives you the opportunity to pay it forward.
And I think it also brings in a sense of empathy for others when
Compassion.
you can start being grateful about things you don't really think of that much, then you start thinking about other people and what they mean to you and what they might need or what they're going through. It kind of just grows from there.
I agree. I agree. I agree.
And there's
So,
people that actually make lists, grateful lists before they go to bed. I have not done that. I probably should, but maybe that would help me sleep better. I don't know, but I hear it works. So
well, the same thing about getting up in the morning. I mean, realistically, you
yeah.
could be grateful for the fact you got up and that you woke up and that it's a new day. As you know, it's always been my favorite time of
Hmm.
the day is the morning, is because nothing has gone wrong yet, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, realistically, I mean, even when I was working and I worked midnight shifts, my favorite time of day was the morning because it was like,
Hmm.
hey, this is a brand new day, and I'm very happy
Yep.
about that. But yeah, being grateful also can attribute to us being more healthy
Hmm.
because being grateful allows your endorphins start kind of are brought out because you're happy, and when you're
Hmm.
happy, you're healthier. It makes the day go by a little better and so forth. So, yeah, I think
Hmm.
Thanksgiving, take the time to be grateful. Take the time to be thankful for what you have, where you're at, those people that are in your life that, can change in an instant, especially in today's day and age with COVID and everything else that's taking
Hmm.
place because COVID seems to like be the never ending villain that keeps peeking over our shoulders
Yeah.
constantly. And removing those around us that just
Yeah.
makes for a bad day.
Yeah. It's I don't think it's ever going to be gone, which
No,
we're
kind of
just going
different.
to end up having to live with it.
But I
But
am grateful for the fact that we do have, shots. We have COVID shots, and we've
yeah.
got boosters, and we've got masks that we can wear, and we've got protocols in place to help protect us, and so forth. So,
Hmm.
and I'm grateful for our kids, and I think
Hmm.
that we're only saying that this isn't a confessional, but we're just kind of showing you how easy it is to say I'm grateful
Yep.
and I'm
And
happy for what I have in my
and
life.
for Thanksgiving itself, it's not all about the food or the drinks. It's really getting into that headspace, I think. At least for me.
Well, it is for me too. I think back when I was a kid, the first thing you think about is just the food and the family.
Hmm.
But when I look back on my life, as you know, I have a very large family, and the family get-togethers, especially around Thanksgiving, were multi-generational and
Hmm.
multi-family. I had um, 8 different aunts and uncles. So,
Yeah.
with
Huge.
that, what's that?
Huge. Huge
Yeah.
family.
So between that 8 aunts and uncles and a multitude of cousins, we all lived in the same area. We all lived in the same apartment complex. Basically, we kind of took over the apartment complexes, and you know, at the time it was food. It was all about family, but it was all about food, and it was all about playing football out in the front, the front lawn, and playing games and things like that. It was always, at least from a kid's perspective, to me it was food, it was fun, it
Hmm.
was family, it was playing games. The older I got, the more I valued the family portion of it. It was the fact that as everybody got older, um, we were losing people. It was more important. And then when people started moving away, when those Thanksgiving times got to be um, again, when it wasn't like everybody coming, and we only had certain members of the family that were able to show up. It just made me appreciate the times that I did have all of those family members that were there, and the fun
Hmm.
and everything that we had. Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving memory?
Um, can't really pick out a favorite. I know, I being an only child, mine were much more subdued. When I was under 9 years old, we still lived in Southern California with my dad's family being around. So I know that we usually ended up at Susan's house, and everybody came to that, and still wasn't as large as your gatherings, but there were more people. And then when we moved to Colorado, we were kind of isolated. So it was really just my mom and dad and I for many years. And um, once they divorced and mom remarried, then it was, mom and Denny and I and um, his daughters every once in a while. I don't think they were at every Thanksgiving, but, so it was still very subdued, mostly for mine. Um, I think when I realized it wasn't about the food or being off of school um, or even having the day off from work, it I think it really has been pretty recent for me. Like, I'll be honest, and I know we're going to do an episode probably about this, but, um, I, this is the first time I'm talking about this, so it's kind of hard. Um, as you know, most of our Thanksgivings, um, I spent drunk. I mean, let's be honest. Um, I used Thanksgiving as the day I could just start drinking whenever I wanted to because it was a holiday. Um,
Well, part
so I
of
don't
part
do
of
that
that
anymore.
unfortunately was garnered because we'd go to my mother's house, and
Yeah,
she.
but those were some of the best times with your mom when her and I would get drunk together. I'm not going to lie. Those were fun for
But
me.
you
But
were indoctrinated into large gatherings coming
I
to my mother's house.
look, I have anxiety and I was an only child and I wasn't used to the that big, yeah. So I had to do that to kind of be okay. And honestly, that's probably why I did that for many years. But um, you know, last Thanksgiving was the first one without any alcohol. Um, it wasn't it wasn't great. I'm gonna be honest. It wasn't
But
fun.
you survived.
I did, and I'm actually okay with this one. I'm not even thinking about it. Um, and at the same time, I've also gotten better with my food intake. So this will be the first one that I'm really conscious about what I'm eating. But I'm okay with that. I think I'm finally realizing what's more important,
Right. And that's a good thing. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that you acknowledged that and the fact that you talked about it and so forth, because we all have our journeys in regard to life in general and our struggles with certain aspects of life. And I think that that's a very positive thing. So I'm proud of you. And yeah,
Thanks.
we are going to talk about this on another episode, just you and I, in regard to that.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
So
um,
I'm grateful for being sober.
I'm grateful for that too. Especially growing up with, yes, my background, as you know, and I've said on this podcast numerous times, I grew up with a very dysfunctional family on certain aspects, and part of that was alcohol related. So,
Hmm.
yes, I'm grateful for that, and I know our kids are as well. So that's a
I
positive
hope
thing.
so.
So, before we leave, um, one more thing before we go. Instead of you go, one more thing before we go. Is there
Right.
anything you would like to kind of share with everybody to make sure that they kind of leave this with a very positive note?
Well, not to be on a soapbox, but everybody, please be careful. If you're in a large group this year, the numbers aren't really going down. We're kind of climbing back up again with the COVID number. So just be careful and wear masks and, you know, social distance when you can. And let's just all be careful and be there for one another and um, realize that it's not all about you, it's about all of us.
It's a good way to do that. I would just like to say that I think that take this time to value your family, to value who you have in your life, whether they be family or friends. And family doesn't have to be blood to be family.
Yeah,
So value who
absolutely.
you have with you, who's in your inner circle, who's in your outer circle, and take that with you each and every day. Be grateful for them and enjoy the holiday. Have a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic Thanksgiving. Be grateful for what you have and where you're at. Spread that joy, that compassion, that humanity with those around you, and
Mm-hmm.
have a great holiday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for listening to this episode of One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life. If you like our show and want to know more, check out our website at beforeyougopodcast.com. That's beforeyougopodcast.com. Tell your story, share your expertise, contribute to the blog, and subscribe to the newsletter. You can find us as well as subscribe to the program and rate us on your favorite podcast listening platform.
And one more thing before you go. Have a nice day, have a nice week, and thanks for listening.
One More Thing Before You Go, a unique conversation about life podcast, is a creation of One More Thing Productions, established 2010, all rights reserved.